But I'll go back actually to a larger scale. These kind of funky diagrams that I have right here are kind of a response to the highway. And we were talking about the views from the highway and that sort of thing. And obviously this area right here is an important area when you start to talk about views of the highway. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to think of how can I create some sort of relationship with the highway. This diagram here, I just sort of took the radius of the highway and just sort of extended it onto the site. And I realized that, it's kind of an arbitrary formal move, but it actually allowed me to do some really great things for the housing here that I think are worthwhile. For instance, just by kind of extending these lines in, what I ended up doing is taking these units and starting to orient, maybe every other one or so to these lines. And what that does is it breaks up the monotony of the block, and that's something that's pretty important to do with housing, because especially with affordable housing, there's sort of like a stigma associated with like long barrack-like houses. So taking these formal cues, I'm able to sort of create a little bit of visual interest. And more importantly, what I'm able to do is to create these kind of interstitial spaces between the buildings that become a sort of hybrid between the public and the private space that I think could be a pretty nice area for a few people to interact. So looking at this rendering here, this is sort of my finalized design ideal, where this street here is sort of a public zone, and then once you kind of slip into this spot in between, you might have maybe about 4 different units sharing this area. Put some benches in there and maybe a little landscaping, and that might be a place where people could be comfortable to sort of interact with one another, but it's not on the street necessarily, and it's not a purely private zone. So that's the kind of space that I'm interested in creating. This diagram right here gets at my design kind of methodology here. I've sort of been talking about this, but I'll just lay it out for you. I think that a lot of the times when you see kind of an affordable housing, I don't know if you guys have seen City West, it's or Hope 6 project like that. You get a pretty cut and paste sort of design. I feel like it's kind of what you'll have is you'll have these row houses. You'll push one back and push one forward, and then you put these gabled roofs on it, and then you get a little bit of variety at the end, but it's really kind of it's all pretty much the same to me. And I was really trying to hope that I could get some of the same ideas of creating a little bit of visual variety and creating, a homey feel, but using a little bit of a different methodology. So what this diagram shows is taking the kind of formal blocks, but instead of pushing them out, I'm pulling them apart and creating the space in between, and then I'm starting to sort of play with the masses here, and creating, pushing forward and back to create these front and back porches that are your outdoor spaces. And I think that I've been able to create the same kind of spaces that you would expect in a residential project, only in a slightly different way. So that's something that I was trying to get to. Here is just a exploded axon showing how how one of these units would be organized. I would have a 3 to 4 bedroom unit on the top 2 floors, so these would be sharing an entrance right here. And then on the ground floor you have a 1 bedroom that would be ADA accessible. You could come in here, up a little ramp, and into your unit. So that's another idea, is creating a variety of spaces where you have 1 bedroom, 4 bedroom, 2 bedrooms. All of these different kind of family structures can live together in a similar area. I talked a lot, so if you guys have any questions.